Hi, everyone. It is your girl Athena, and I'm here with my beautiful co host and spiritual sister, Karen Teal,
Hi.
professional astrologer. And today we are going to talk about a very critical alignment that's coming up next week on November 3rd, which is the Pluto in Capricorn, Mars in Cancer opposition. And Karen and I decided earlier this week that, this is going to be so impactful. We really wanted to do a special podcast on this particular alignment so that people could be mindful about their thoughts, their actions, their choices as this alignment is occurring, because Mars and Pluto are just such powerful planets. They can really um, create a lot of wonderful, amazing empowerment energy, but equally in their more debilitated aspects, they can create a lot of chaotic energy too. How you experience that and what you do with that, though, really has to do with how you approach it and the mindfulness in which you take in allowing yourself to experience the themes related to these energies. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen to kind of just give us the deeper understanding about what an opposition is and why it's so significant in astrology.
Thank you. So, the opposition is probably one of the, if not the most difficult aspect to deal with in astrology, because you have these kind of two contending forces that are causing tension on each other, and there can sometimes feel like there's really no way out. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't with this kind of energy. um and when you have these two planets that are known to be, what we call malefics, where more often than not, they kind of shake things up in our lives. And then you're having them both connect in this very powerful, tense aspect at, a very critical degree, which we'll talk about later. It really is kind of the recipe for big things to happen, especially at this critical degree that we'll explore soon. And Mars has a lot to do with war and how we're active, and so it can really like kind of light the fire under people's butts right now if that's what's needed, because you're really going to be feeling this tension of the opposition aspect, and you're going to be trying to figure out, how do I reconcile this. Really, things could get shaken up because Mars, this planet of war, is opposing Pluto, this planet of kind of destruction. Pluto is all about breaking things down to the bare bones, or to the dust or ashes, even, where you have to kind of bring yourself back up. And since Mars is so initiatory, if we have been kind of lagging in transformations in our lives, or not willing to make changes in certain areas of our life, Mars is really going to kick things off where, some of us might really not have a choice, because there could be events that occur in our lives depending on what house this is happening for, houses this is happening for you, where, the kind of reconciling that you're going to have to do might be quite imminent, and not giving you as much grace periods for things. It's really like things are going to happen. And even on a global scale, we're going to see big things happening around this time with these oppositions, and continuing to happen into the new year, because the astrology for the rest of the year is really kind of intense, and it just kind of keeps going, one thing after another that we're going to have to contend with. But it's not to punish us. Oppositions are not here to come into your life to make it difficult. It's just that we have things that we incarnated to do. Every single one of us is learning lessons, and trying to figure out at the depths of our soul who we are, our connectedness to God, our spirituality. And so, it's important to remember that these aspects that we call harsh aspects or malefics, it's not to scare you. It's really just to say, are you going to rise to the occasion? Yeah, are you going to, take this as an opportunity to change things in your life that maybe need changing? Or, where in our lives do we need to just really surrender to these kinds of energies and say, this is what's happening. I'm going to observe like this chaos that's ensuing. How am I going to respond to this? And we're talking about Capricorn and Cancer here. There's this kind of balance between control versus maybe where we need to nurture. There's also this idea of kind of defensiveness too. Like, are we having strong boundaries in certain areas of our lives? And but also like what needs a little more TLC in our lives? And some of us may even be dealing with stuff having to do with our parents, because the Cancer Capricorn duality has a lot to do with our parents. And so there could be lessons having to do with that. We could be experiencing changes with our parents, depending on what house this is happening for you. But it's whatever we're going through now, it's important to remember that, and we'll talk about this because I want to hear Athena's thoughts on this. But um, as the rest of the year goes on into the new year, how are we going to kind of deal with this aspect that's going to happen several times, because we have Mars retrograding and coming back over it. And so this opposition is going to happen 3 times, right? So what are your thoughts on kind of how this is going to transpire over these next few months with these 3 oppositions?
Well, I am a Aquarian ascendant, so
Yeah,
I like to think outside the box.
absolutely.
And it's always, always, always my personal opinion that anything that happens to you, whether you find your ego finds it pleasurable or not, is meant to be there for your benefit, right? And so you can claim it. You can sit in these hard aspects and you can say, oh my God, my life sucks. Why is this happening to me? I can't handle it. I can't deal with it. Or you can, as you mentioned, let yourself surrender and use it as an opportunity to go inward and really consider and contemplate the areas in your life where you can create space. And what's really fascinating to me about this particular alignment is that it's coming right on the back end of some really important Scorpio energy. We just are moving into a new moon in Scorpio. We're right in the middle of Scorpio season. Scorpio being ruled both by Mars and Pluto. And I really love I'm gonna, while Scorpio is a water sign, I'm gonna take a side quest here real quick just to kind of emphasize where people can go with these types of energies. Scorpio has, mystically speaking, 3 forms: the scorpion, the snake, and the eagle. The most basic fundamental aspect of that scorpion is, a person that's driven by their impulses, right? Their attachments to the world. They're maybe very controlled by their lusts, their desires, their emotions. The snake aspect that one can mutate into is the part of Scorpio that's starting to become aware of themselves as a person, aware of, their interaction with the greater world and how it impacts them, i.e., understanding what the microcosm and macrocosm are and how they interact to benefit an individual. And then you have the eagle, which is the highest form of Scorpio, which is, the part that has risen above everything, right? It is the aspect of Scorpio that has gone through all the transformation and now sees everything from a higher perspective. And you can do this with this kind of transit that's coming up, right? Yes, Pluto is associated with power structures. It's in Capricorn, which represents a very authoritarian dynamic. People may find themselves coming head to head with these ideas of authoritarianism, control, oppression, right? Especially because we're about to come out of that Pluto and Capricorn transit, right? You have to, this is your opportunity to tie up things before it moves into Aquarius. So you don't have residual stuff, impacting you. You can really engage in that new energy as Pluto moves into Aquarius. And with the emphasis in Mars, right? Or in opposition to Mars, Mars is like that kind of head on, like very assertive, it's associated with the ram, right? So it's its own kind of like a stone wall, like, no, you can't do that to me. And it's in a sign that has to do with our emotions, so it could hit us very deeply, right? So you can let yourself get rocked by that, and you may get that, right? I mean, we've all been there where we've just felt like we got punched in the gut out of nowhere by some situation that we feel like we didn't have any control over. And so I'm going to give it to you all straight, as I always do. Whatever you experience, right? Your higher self, your true self, the ego part of yourself, right, has put that out there for you. You are in God's school. You're in the classroom, and some things are quizzes and some things are tests. So if you take the time to do your homework, right, you can prepare yourself for these things. Ask yourself, what are the themes I've been going through? What unresolved issues do I have? You don't have to go into the transit totally unaware with something going to slap you in the face. You can go into that transit like, yeah, I'm ready for this. You know what? If something comes up, I know how to manage it. I'm going to manage my emotions. I'm going to manage my mind, my meditations. I'm not going to let myself get thrown off kilter and behave in a way that is, not in accordance with my true self, right? You can come into these oppositions prepared. You don't have to let yourself just be thrown around by the winds of change, right? You can be an active component in your own transformation. And when I go through stuff, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Sometimes I get thrown off kilter, then I come back and I realign. And when I do, I tell myself this is my design. This is my design. The reason that this is here is because I designed it for me. And that brings back the power to you, right? Rather than feeling like everything is hitting you all in the face, you can be, the strong figure in the storm, just silent and ready, and when you can move into that space, then not only can you understand the deeper lessons of something like an opposition or a square or really any alignment, but you also now can be a manifester in that energy, right? We talk a lot about things happening to us and just trying to manage it and deal with it and learn the lessons. But the other side of that coin is once you become a master of yourself, you can actually use and leverage those energies yourself for your benefit. And that's where I would like everyone to be able to be at some point. So yeah, what do you think about, you know, that, and how maybe, us coming into the 29th degree here? I mean, we're pretty much nestled into it, right? And it, as you said, it's a critical degree. It's an anorectic degree. Most people don't even consider the degrees at all, right? So this is just a little extra tidbit information that you can research online about the degrees, that planets are in a certain house, to give you a little bit more information on your birth chart. You know, in terms of, well, we have the 29th degree. The next opposition will be in Aquarius at the first degree of Aquarius. The final one will be in the third degree of Aquarius. And, I wanted to just mention too that one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this stuff today is because you guys taking the time to really manage things up front will benefit you, because next year, when we have our last opposition, Pluto Mars opposition at the third degree, Mars will be in retrograde, and you'll revisit things that you didn't tie up this time, or you'll revisit the seeds that you planted around this time. So again, you get to make the choice. You get to empower yourself and make the choice. So, but I really, I've been studying a lot more about the significance of the degrees. And I always love hearing what you have to say. I mean, you just always share information that it probably would have taken me years to come across. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on the significance and how we can work with those energies.
Yeah, so the 29th degree is probably one of the most important degrees in the zodiac if you really look at it, because there's so much of a finality to the 29th degree. It means that you have gone through the entire 30 degrees of a sign. If you consider the start at 0 degrees and then the last degree of each sign 29 degrees, you've made it through all of those lessons, if you will, through that time. And so when you're having something like this, a very tense aspect at a very critical degree, you can almost think of this as like the big exam. Like you have been, studying to get like your PhD or something, because this isn't like a little elementary school test. Like this is a big test, maybe for like college or university. You've been studying, you think you have it all down, you've been kicked and you've get down and you've gotten yourself back up. And now it's like this almost final exam where you're kind of like, what have you learned from all of this energy? And the Mars Pluto, really, I mean, those two planets together is probably about as triggering as it gets for us. And so it's almost like you are going to be triggered by something. And, especially with all the stuff that's going on in the United States, like there's so many triggers for anyone, depending on, regardless of what you believe in or what side you're on or anything or what your views are. There's stuff left and right during this time that are going to trigger us. How are you going to react to that? Because Mars and Pluto, when they connect, can sometimes be angry. It can sometimes be violent. And 29 degrees, there's a finality to it. And so we really don't want to react in a way that we are going to look back on this and regret. So we have all this time where we are going to be feeling this opposition 3 times. So it's almost like you have 3 chances to pass this exam. The first one is going to be hard because it's going to be 29 degrees, but it'll get easier and easier. And as we get into kind of this 1 degree Aquarius opposition, 3 degrees Aquarius opposition, it's kind of like, okay, we're easing you into transitioning out of this kind of difficult, if you want to call it that, or just really testing energy. And now, we're going to kind of move into this kind of newer energy and start kind of seeing how you have integrated all the things that maybe you've learned within the past few months or so, or even years, because, all of these things kind of can come to a head at once. And, everything, of course, is really dependent on what's going on in your natal chart too. So this could hit some people in different areas of your life, or to different degrees. Some people might really, if it's in like a house that you really feel it, like if it's happening in like your 6th and 12th houses, for example, this is your mental, your physical, your spiritual health. And so it can be kind of a push and pull with those things. And so it's really, you want to, if you are able to look at your chart and see where this aspect is happening for you, where's 29 degrees Capricorn, where's 29 degrees Cancer, and then 1 degree Aquarius and 1 degree Leo and 3 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. What houses are those degrees in for you? Because those are going to be the places that are really going to be demanding your focus at this time. For me, it's in my 5th and 11th house. And I think maybe for you too, Athena, 5th and 11th house, I would say, right? Or is yours, because you said that you've had a kind of a lot of restructuring of your friends and figuring out who is going to stay, who's, maybe is going out at this time. And I've kind of been having a similar thing too, where it's really, and it's been kind of like, quite a few slaps in the faces, even where I'm like, oh, I just realized that you're not the friend that I thought you were. You don't think the same way about me. You don't consider me a friend, and maybe I considered you a friend. So it's really been stuff that in my personal experience has hurt. And it's been hard, but when I really kind of ponder it over and look back on it, I'm like, okay, well, there's, if someone doesn't consider me a friend, then do I want to consider them a friend? And really just also because it's also in the 5th house, I've had kind of a lot of things we're kind of trying to figure out I have two children, kind of figuring out how to manage my children. I have two very vastly different ages of children. I have a 10-year-old and I have an almost 2-year-old. And so, you really have to parent them differently. And so those are kind of been the ways that this opposition, even before it's going to be exact in a couple days from now, has been really kind of hitting me. And just even out in the world, you can notice the impact of this aspect. If you drive, you may have seen more aggressive driving. When stuff is going on with Mars, I always, tend to hear more sirens going on around my house and things like that. um I even heard about, people have gotten into car accidents and things like that. This is all stuff that like is shaking, can really shake up your life. But it's a good reminder that we do need to kind of temper our emotions. If you are out on the road and people are driving more aggressively, like really use that Cancerian energy where, if you're a mom, be like, what if this was my kid? Would I be getting this angry about this? Or trying to maybe be like, okay, go back into within yourself and maybe nurture yourself if things are giving you a hard time, if you will, out in the world. And yeah, just like you said, which is really great advice, to just when things are kind of going on all around us in the mundane world, really as a chance to look inward. And really, a lot of us could want to maybe work on our anger. What makes us angry? What is an anger that comes from hurt, which can be kind of very scorpionic. Scorpio is a water sign. So even though they have this kind of tough shell exterior, they are still very sensitive beings. And if you have Scorpio in your chart, you feel that sensitivity. But Scorpio is really the sign that even though they are feeling these sensitivities, they're probably not going to let you know that they're as sensitive as they are. And if you hurt them, you will know that you've hurt them. Maybe not right away. They might wait till the perfect opportunity to get you back. But really, and even to some degree Cancer, because Cancer and Scorpio are known as very, kind of grudge holding signs. So if you hurt one of these signs that has this tough exterior, whether they let you know that you hurt them or not, it's something that is going to be affecting them. So that being said, with these two kind of energies being prevalent here, the Scorpio with the Mars and the Pluto, and then we're in Scorpio time, and then this 29-degree Cancer that Mars is going to be at, these themes are going to kind of come up for us. And so how do we nurture ourselves when we're feeling angry? Is our anger coming from a really emotional place? Is it coming from a hurt place, or is it something else? And so that's something you really want to explore. And then there's an opportunity to really transform your perspective on how you view these things, not as something being done to you, but yet, like as you said, something that is of our own kind of makings, in the sense that we are trying to kind of work on these things, and that it brings the power back to us.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate what you already said.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was really thinking about this transition over into Aquarius, and it definitely crossed my mind that we're moving, from Capricorn into Aquarius, which is it's a revolutionary energy, right? And when do revolutions happen? They happen when people get sick of the status quo, sick of the old guard, sick of feeling oppressed, sick of feeling as if they're not valuable, right? So these things they're pretty, this is like a natural evolution of things, right? Kingdoms rise, and then a revolution happens and kingdoms fall. And Capricorn is very much associated with old guard energy, and an energy that does not want to give up its power. And Pluto is there, right? The planet of power is just about to leave. So, it, hypothetically speaking, there could be a lot of resistance in the old guard to, as it comes into their understanding that they will be losing their power at some point. And, having this Pluto Mars aspect really could facilitate this transition into the revolutionary energy, both on the individual and the collective scale, right? Imagine, just as an example, hypothetically, right? A group of people who feel as if they've been oppressed for a very long time and how that impacts them emotionally, right? Eventually, when you've been oppressed for a long time, it builds up and builds up and builds up, right? And then what happens? Well, it's like Mars, you know, I'm not going to take it anymore. And and so now there's a lot of strength that's being fueled both by a resistance, finally somebody rising up, to go to war for what they believe in, for themselves, for their value, in a very passionate, emotionally driven way against a power and authority structure that has sought to bring them down for a long time. Again, it's a hypothetical story. We've seen it throughout history. We can also say, I'm sure it's happening in a number of places all over the globe right now, right? But, like, who knows, right? The third is happening right after, in America for us, the election season. I haven't paid any attention to it because I already saw that one like 8 years ago. I didn't need to revisit it again this time. But I can tell, that it's as heated and impassioned as it was, the previous times the elections have been up for the presidency in our nation, because the characters on the stage are, they create a lot of triggers in the collective consciousness, not just in America, but globally, right? Whatever side of the fence you're on, the other person, is triggering you. That's why I just get off the wheel. I'm not on.
That's smart. That's a good idea. And yeah,
I'm not going to vote. I'm just saying I'm not on that wheel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's a good perspective to step outside of that. And especially like, because you and I were even talking about like how like our Pisces energy is so prevalent in the way that we kind of react to the world and stuff, just you and I. And so it's almost like this stepping aside and not being emotionally evolved and being objective and being really like, okay, let's just see how this is going to play out, basically.
Last time they had all this stuff on the internet, people literally having meltdowns on camera over the results, right? I mean, if the election doesn't go the way people want it to, like, let's say it's like so close, it has to go to the Supreme Court in January, and then finally the Supreme Court gets it all figured out and somebody gets installed, a little bit later on in the spring. That to me is a kind of a flow of how things could go, hypothetically speaking, right? The elections don't turn out the way people want them to. It's contended, it goes to court, and then it gets resolved, and then the people on the other side of the aisle are pissed, right? That sounds to me like a lot of little different oppositions happening over one singular theme, as an example, right? So, just going back to what I think one of our main points is here, right? Regardless of how you think and feel about this kind of stuff, this stuff can offer like just perspective on lessons. And one of the things, for me, that really is a lesson underlying all of this is what is valuable, right? What truly is valuable to you in your life, right? Do you want to let yourself be controlled by situations that are happening externally to the point where, it creates bad blood between you and other family members, or you and your mate, or you and your children, or you and your job, or you and yourself? Is that really valuable? Like, I think taking some time to really reflect and understand how to root yourself in what's truly important in life, and not all these ancillary transient things, is highly important, because no matter what happens, It's transient. It's not going to be there, after some period of time. But maybe as a memory, just like power structures rise and fall, Rome was one of the greatest empires in the whole globe, and we still hear about Rome and talk about Rome and all that kind of stuff. But the Roman influence to that degree is gone, right? You can build up as much power as you want in your life and as much influence or any kind of entity or structure or something can, right? And create a massive machine, but everything falls to dust eventually, right? So, what is the cross you want to live and die on? Is it something like that, that eventually in the end is, going to have very little influence? Yeah, it might be impactful for a certain period of time, but it's going to be dust at some point. Or is it the relationships that you have with yourself, with your family, the time that you spend, you know, not letting yourself get so looped up into power structures at work that you're working overtime all the time and you miss your kids growing up, right? These are also very similar themes, I think, kind of related to this type of energy. So, you might have to ask yourself, what's valuable to me and what do I want to stand up for in the end as these transitions are, finalizing themselves. And if you can root yourself in what's truly valuable, right, then you can manage those other situations that try to impress themselves upon you. And then you can move into the new Aquarian energy, with as you said, a fresh perspective, right? Ready to bring true revolution to various areas of your life, to free yourself up, to give yourself, more bandwidth to do things you enjoy. Aquarius is an air sign. There's a lot of creativity and thinking and philosophy and stuff related to that sign, so you could really allow yourself to enjoy a period of time over the next 18 years, where you develop yourself at that higher level because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Or you can let yourself be bogged down by this stuff as it, infiltrates into a new phase of your life, let that baggage go, put those bags away.
Yeah, it's best just not to resist this stuff because I think like the people who really resist these kinds of aspects, it usually ends up being harder for you. Like as we mentioned, just really taking it as for what it is and taking it as an opportunity to really just kind of surrender and yeah, just look at what you value throughout all of this because that's kind of really what it comes back to, right? And one thing I think I was going to mention earlier that I didn't mention is that there could be, because we're dealing with Cancer and Capricorn going into Aquarius and Leo, there can also be a lot of people can be going through like kind of struggles with home life versus their career during this time where where are you sacrificing in one area, and also maybe people are ending careers and going into something maybe a little more out of the box or a little bit more unique, or maybe going into something that is going to nurture your unique abilities that's maybe even more catered to you. So that's another kind of theme with Cancer and Capricorn that we see. And then moving into maybe like how are we connected net, or how are we connected as a collective, maybe through technology, the internet, where we can see how we are all connected, but how we all stand out on our own individually too, and maybe embracing and nurturing those parts of ourselves, and using that more to our advantage and to create opportunities in our life rather than kind of stick with this kind of old guard ideas, status quo kind of things. Because we're really, with all the advancements just in the last 100 years, like we've advanced more in the last 100 years than humanity has in thousands of years before that. And so there's a lot of areas collectively where we need to catch up. And maybe the old guard things aren't really working for us anymore, and there has to be some kind of reconciling of that too. And so where in your life is that happening? And Is there some restructuring of our careers or how we present ourselves publicly that we want to do? And a lot of people can be reconciling with that because just with kind of these oppositions that we're seeing in the mundane world, especially politically, it's like you're putting yourself out there into a certain box right now. And it's, really kind of down the line, we want to kind of move away from things like that, where it is these kind of two opposing forces and we're creating enemies out of people when it's really a time period in our history where that's probably not going to work as well for us anymore, because it's this, I mean, it's easy to say that, right? But it's just, we can't, like, the same old thing where it's like going to these wars and then having all this unrest and people fighting against each other. It's just, at some point something has to give, because we've advanced so much. Where does is this really, and this is just me kind of, yeah, going back into the Pisces thing where I'm like, I just want peace. But really it comes down to that, like, it's it really, we got to, figure something out here, because these times are, kind of, we're having a lot of these kind of aspects happening during this time. And so if we're not thinking of these things and trying to move forward from these things, what are we doing? Because these aspects are going to keep hitting. And 2025, from what I know, is going to be kind of an intense year for everyone. So we're moving into 2025. I mean,
Every
we
year is
blink.
an intense year.
I know, that's true. That's
It's
really
just in a
true.
different way. That's why you got to
Yeah.
claim it. At some point, you got to just recognize life is life.
Yeah.
There could be a struggle around every corner, or there could be an opportunity around every corner. But just, sometimes you got to climb up that mountain to get that opportunity, right? I mean, and I know when we talk about this kind of stuff, oh, it's like, well, that sounds easy enough for you. I get it. Trust me, I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, no, we do. We can be kind of idealistic, I think, because yeah, we got a lot of Pisces. You have a lot of Aquarius going on in your chart, and both those signs do tend to be lean more towards the idealistic side of things, and like looking at things from a higher perspective. And so, but yeah, when you get down to the nitty gritty of stuff, there is still quite a lot of work to be done.
And
And
it's
and
hard
everyone,
sometimes.
yeah,
It is. Okay, nobody, but the thing is the benefits on the back end, they really are so worth it. And I can truly say that from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I have been through some stuff in my life. But, everything that I've gone through, no matter how difficult, no matter if I felt completely destroyed by it, and I had to come back to life, by the grace of God. When you stand at the top of the mountain and you look down, you see it was worth it. So, yeah, if you find things leaving your life, right? Yes, it's going to hurt that human component of us, right? We love things, we care about things, we put a lot of energy and time into certain things only to see them leave, right? Again, things are transient. But if you can work on reframing your mind to recognize that when things leave, that creates new space for other things to enter, right? That's one. But two, there's a saying, nowhere a void. When that space has been created, you get a brand new opportunity to determine what you really want. Do you want to fill that space back up with the same old stuff? And go through that same lesson again and again and again and again? Or do you want to take that space that's been cleaned out and reorganize it and invite something new? And that's where the real work is, right? The work isn't about suffering through some circumstance, only to come up to the next one and say, oh, war torn, I'm gonna do it again. Got it. No, it's about changing yourself so that what comes into your life over time is better and better and better and better. And that when you do come across challenging situations, you have the capacity to be able to handle them gracefully, so that you continue to maximize the benefits of the things that are coming into your life. And that's where the real work is, because that's what can be most challenging. Well, how do I change? What do I need to change? Et cetera, right? So that's what you should be looking to do, are finding ways to help you to approach situations from a higher perspective, through whatever method, your spiritual practice, there's of course the various psychological pathways, techniques. I mean, there's a lot of tools out there, right? So find the ones that resonate with you so you can leverage their benefit and then bring that goodness into your life. Okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
I
I love
love
you
it.
guys. Anything you want to say before we sign off, Karen?
I not that I can think of. It's just, just do the best you can out there. And, you know, all like you said, these energies are transient. So just, keep it moving, as they say, and just focus on the, positive things that you can in your life, and really if you think there's nothing, there's something to be found there where you can, um, you know, go into that. I think during this time, like if you have creative ventures, or if you have like kids or pets that are just unconditionally loving to you, that you can spend time with and nurture them. Or even like if you have like aging parents or something, spending some time with them, and maybe whether you agree with it or not, getting their perspective on things, not if it's going to cause a problem, not if it's going to cause an even bigger blow up, because we do have this Mars and Pluto thing. But I'm just trying to think, of things that you can, things that in our life that we can appreciate, that, and these aspects are happening for a reason. This time that we're going through is happening for a reason, because on a microcosmic and macrocosmic scale, for whatever reason, it is needed for us to go through these things, and we're all going to come out of it stronger, wiser, more resilient. And some of us could really have some big opportunities come out of this, and it's really just about seeing those when they come in, rather than kind of wallowing in, oh, these energies are so difficult right now. What can we produce out of this that is positive, that is bringing love into the world, however that is for you? And that, yeah, that would just be kind of my final thoughts on it. We would love to hear, in the comments section of these videos, how things pan out for you. We would love to know. And so if you do have something big going on in your life right now, where you're like, I know exactly how this transit's hitting me, we would love for you to share.
Yeah, and come hit us up on Facebook and Instagram. We'll drop our pages down there so you can converse with us over there. That's why we have them, so we can connect with you. Just remember, we are a team, fam. We're doing it together. We're rising together. We're making it happen. And we love to share wisdom back and forth. So please do share your experiences and wisdom. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Karen. It's always
thank
a pleasure and a
you.
joy to get to chat with you. And everybody, we love you so much. Please have a blessed transit, you know keep your thoughts high, your energy high, your gratitude high. If it's getting really rough, just pray, sit and pray, meditate. Um yeah, good stuff's going to come from it though.
Yeah, just be that eagle that we talked about. Just soar above it and observe. Observe it from your height, and just take it all in, rather than, it's not some mountain you're going to smack into. You're above the clouds, and then you just have this fresh perspective.
That's right. Gonna fly like an eagle into the sea.
And everyone's
All
going to have that stuck in their head.
right. All right. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode of The Energies Surrounding You. Bye.
Bye.